Spartan X has a bit of a weird history behind it. If you're familiar with the game under that title, then you're probably aware that it's a licensed game based on the Jackie Chan movie Wheels on Meals. Irem made the arcade game, which was released in the US as Kung Fu Master. They were going to port it to the Famicom, but Nintendo wanted to do it themselves, so we've got about another week before this show reaches Irem's first game. Nintendo wound up releasing the game in the US as just Kung Fu. So what did they have to change to remove the Wheels on Meals license? The caricature of Jackie Chan on the cover. Everything else is identical. The names Thomas and Sylvia are the names of Jackie Chan's and Lola Forner's characters from the movie, but that's the only thing that Spartan X the game shares with Spartan X the movie. Sylvia is not even Thomas's love interest in the film. I strongly suspect that this is a different game that Irem was working on when they got the Spartan X license and just put the title on it. So we actually have a plot for this one, including cutscenes. Sylvia has been kidnapped by Mr. X, and Kung Fu Master Thomas has to climb to the 5th story of his pagoda to defeat Mr. X and get Sylvia back. That makes this a first for the Famicom. This is the first time we have the kidnapped girlfriend plot. Thomas can punch and kick his way through the foes. There's low, mid, and jumping versions of each attack as well, giving him a grand total of 6 attacks. The jumping punch isn't particularly useful, though. Thomas has to go in a zigzag path to get to the top floor. As he walks toward the stairs, Tsukaminan will rush in from either side to grab him. That name just means grappler. While they're holding on to Thomas, his life is drained away, and you'll have to hit the attack button repeatedly to break their grip. Kicks have a longer reach to intercept them, but you score less points for striking with them. Punches score more points, but the most points are scored by using a jump kick. Though I found the jump kick to be a bit flaky. Other common enemies are the knife nages, or throwers, who will throw a knife either high or low, and have a terrible tendency to run away as Thomas approaches them. On higher floors, there's also the diminutive tom-tom. Low attacks will dispatch them, but they sometimes jump up and land on your head. The first half of floors 2 and 4 have special enemies. Floor 2 has pots drop from the ceiling onto Thomas, and they can release poisonous snakes or dragons. There's also a hovering ball that will explode unless you jump kick it. On floor 4, poisonous moths get released to chase you down. In general, it's better to just run from those rather than try to knock them all out of the sky. Finally, each floor has a boss. On the first floor, it's Bojutsuka, a staff wielder. The second floor's boss is the boomerang wielder. Not only do the boomerangs return to him when they're thrown, sometimes they come back at a different height. The third floor boss is just called the Super Strong Man. His massive blows can take you down fast. The fourth floor is ruled by the Yojutsu, or Black Magic Master. He throws fireballs that may turn into moths, and if you kick him, his head can come off and he'll teleport away. I find him to be the toughest of the floor bosses. Naturally, the 5th floor of the pagoda is controlled by Mr. X, another Kung Fu master who has all the moves Thomas does. If you defeat him, Thomas and Sylvia are reunited, and then you return to the 1st floor of the pagoda to do it again. So those bosses look pretty tough, but they do have a secret weakness: low kicks. It doesn't work on everyone, but generally crouching and hitting low kick rapidly will catch the bosses. Mr. X can't do anything against it. Something you may notice as you play is that your progress is counted at the top of the screen. Watch the lanterns. They're counting 1 through 6 in Chinese characters. The boss is always located at lantern 6. Some more gameplay tips. You can jump over the high knife, but it's pretty tricky to do. On the second floor, it's safer to destroy the pots as they fall. You can punch out the dragon, but don't try to kick the snakes. If TomTom tries to jump on you, you can jump as well and that will knock them out of the air. Don't die after you beat the boss, then you just have to do the floor over again. Finally, the biggest secret of them all, there's a way to score 5,000 points off of any enemy. Every 12th enemy, if you defeat that one with a jump kick, it scores 5,000 points. It's easiest to do on the first floor as you can quickly count the enemies as you go and jump kick on the 12th. Weirdly enough, this game was released twice in Japan. Once as Spartan X, and then after they lost the license, it was released as Kung Fu. The Famicom Kung Fu card is a bit hard to find. Irem would eventually make a sequel to Spartan X, even though there is no movie sequel. There's another schoolyard rumor on this one. If you defeat Mr. X on the 24th lap, since X is the 24th level, Sylvia attacks you as the true final boss. The source of this story is the comic Famicom Rocky, which was the source for a lot of bad information for kids in the 80s. As for Spartan X itself, I don't like this game. There isn't enough variety in what you can do, the bosses are too vulnerable, and a lot of times when you get hit, it feels like it's being cheap rather than you screwing up. Like you'll have a knife thrower approach while you're in the middle of fighting the boss, or a TomTom will jump up on top of you while you're busy hitting someone else and so you can't jump up to block it. The controls seem to be a bit flaky too. If you want to turn around and attack someone immediately behind you, there's a little bit of a delay as you do that. I really liked this game as a kid, but these days it just doesn't do anything for me.